Welcome back again to this session. And in this session, we shall be looking at the role of social economic valuation in decision-making processes. So in the previous sessions, we mentioned that the main aim in trying to understand and to value natural capital and ecosystem services is actually to make better decisions, which obviously at the end of the day are expected to result in better actions that relate to the land resources, the water resources, and any other natural ecosystems or elements that contribute to natural capital. So as an anchor to this understanding that we had, the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, which is an initiative by the UN, has a very big vision. And in this vision, they look at it as a world in which, number one, people and institutions appreciate natural systems as vital assets, and two, the same people and institutions also recognize the central role that the assets play in supporting human well-being, and routinely would generally incorporate these material and intangible values into decision making. So what we are trying to say is that studying and analyzing the actual and the potential changes in the state of the natural environment, as well as the impact of these changes on ecosystem services, and also the associated natural capital, is very important for promoting better management at individual degraded sites, as well as the making of decisions to support both ecosystem conservation and also the ensuing ecosystem service delivery. Now, as previously said, the major contributing factor to ecosystem degradation is the failure of the current decision makers and the society in general to actually see or recognize the social and environmental values of ecosystems, in spite of the many and various services provided by these ecosystems to us as humans. So these contributions mostly are not fully recognized because they are not yet comprehensively recorded in any databases or documentation. So one necessary step to halt further degradation, therefore, is to ensure that future policies consistently include the values of nature beside the classic economic concerns within policy making processes, such that the economic, the physical and social valuations are measurements that should be performed in the sense of defining what we can call the relative worth or importance of ecosystem services for the end user community. So this knowledge and information can then be harnessed by decision-making institutions to build the necessary rationale for change, and this can be achieved through the implementation of informed decisions to create what we can call a compelling incentive for local communities, business, and even policymakers to preserve ecosystems for the protection of livelihoods and well-being for current and future generations. So at the end of the day, this will always have the potential to transform the development and even the stewardship of any natural ecosystem. So in a nutshell, what we're trying to say? We are trying to say that the actual economic values of the services provided by ecosystems can, one, present an economic argument for protecting natural resources, mainly through, influencing the formulation of policies. They can also create new ways to enhance livelihoods, like the development and the use of technological tools and models to showcase the true value of nature. They can also highlight the opportunity costs of ecosystem degradation. They can also provide data for use in national accounts. And this is very important because it can actually help in even lobbying for commensurate share from the national accounts, as I said earlier, even for sector ministry structures like conservation measures. Lastly, it can also show which environmental assets need to be protected and how the protection can actually be actualized. So the big question now is, how do ecosystem service values influence decision making? Answering this will also give us the reasons why a social economic valuation process of ecosystem services is a very important process that needs to be embedded in any country's sector ministries for normal operations. So to paint a clear picture, or to make an emphasis on the exact roles that ecosystem service values play, I want us to just wrap our minds around the cycle of ecosystem production. And much of this we have mentioned previously in the preceding sessions. So for this purpose, our cycle will start at the ecosystem level, which in this case is our lowest level of production. Now, once the ecosystem has produced the goods and services, the next important step towards informed decision making is to understand exactly how much of the good or service has been provided by that particular ecosystem. And if you remember what we said, for this, many approaches can be applied, ranging from very simple and familiar methods like physical counting and weighing of products to sophisticated methods like the use of biophysical methods and algorithms. So once the ecosystem service has been quantified, as we said, it now becomes necessary to then convert this to what we call economic terms that can then be used to understand the actual values of that particular ecosystem. So for this, national specific unit values of the goods and services are used for the computation, and to achieve this you will require valuation models and simple arithmetic algorithms for implementing that. So for this, the first three steps of this cycle, there are existing tools and even standalone models that can actually be used to derive these economic values from the ecosystem services, and of course one of them is the Colwood model. Now the resulting now economic values can then be communicated to the right decision-making institutions. So this is where you package your values into something meaningful. So the ecosystem service values will provide very useful information that the decision-making institutions would incorporate to guide the policy formulation, for example, regarding to the management of the said resources. So to make meaningful decisions, I would say it is very paramount to embed the values of this natural capital in these institutions to bring about what we can say meaningful change. And if we fail on this, you will find that the communities we will continue to carry on with the activities that most of the time could be harmful to the natural ecosystems over the long term. So the key to making informed decisions would be to understand, one, the elements that would motivate change in decisions and behavior, and then how such can then be included in a conscious process of cultural evolution of norm, cultural norm evolution, if I may put it. So this could be things like monetary rewards, for example, programs like the payment of ecosystem services initiatives, where people or communities are paid to conserve the environment. You have also mechanisms like the Red Plus mechanism and carbon trading, which are other very good examples where people are encouraged to, contribute to climate change mitigation efforts, and where they can benefit from trading their carbon stocks, or where they can even receive financial incentives to reduce deforestation, and so on and so forth. Things like also legal sanctions could work in such cases where hefty bans and hefty penalties are given on people who do anything against the conservation of environment. So it is actually expected that at this stage where information has been passed on to the decision-making institutions, a significant flow of finances will take place, or the flow of any other tangible or intangible incentive that can be used to alter the mindset of the people regarding their social or every other day norms. So this could even mean incorporating traditional knowledge and practices into modern conservation approaches. So now you realize that the demonstration and the use of the economic values in their various forms by the various decision institutions are very essential for the development of evidence-based information or informed decision, and for the mainstreaming of ecosystem management and conservation at country level across the different sectors. So what is key to a successful integration, if I may say, of this ecosystem services in developing strategies for action is actually the existence of relevant evidence-based information on the most important ecosystem services in the country, and you'll find that such information is very important in the mainstreaming process. So at this point, evidence-based informed actions like things like conservation measures, or even evidence-based informed inactions, like inactions means nothing is happening, taking a business as usual scenario, are rolled out. So the choice of action or inaction will be dependent on the prevailing ground scenarios and the decision makers' perception on the best management option for an ecosystem in question at that particular time in question. Remember, everything is time-bound depending on the scenarios on the ground. So you will realize that presenting decision-making institutions with evidence of these values and their beneficial role in their specific activities, alongside the development of feasible plans to incorporate them into existing structures and practices, will sort of provide enabling conditions for mainstreaming and subsequent informed actions or even inactions. So in a nutshell, what we are trying to say is that in order to take a full advantage of the multiple benefits that ecosystems provide, there must be a very clear understanding of the values of nature and where they can actually usefully be taken into account both in public and private decisions. Now, this marks the end of this session, and we are looking forward to the next sessions. Thank you.